record button. So welcome to our Empathy Cafe it's the XR Empathy Circle work group as well. And we'd like to get started with just introductions of everyone, just short, your name, where you're from, perhaps how you're involved in XR, in what groups. I'm Edwin Rutch from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm part of the XR Empathy Circle work group, as well as the local XR group here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Carolina, you were going to go next and then select who would speak. I'm going to be setting up the work groups here.
Okay, my name is Karolina Kubiak. I'm calling from Poland, harbor city of Gdańsk. I am a XR member, Extinction Rebellion member, and I'm also a member of Empathy Circle team. Nice to meet you all. And I will ask Gaia or Gala. Would you introduce yourself? You have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, please.
Hi, I am Gaia from Italy, from Tuscany. I am XR involved in my local base in Leghorn, and I am part of regenerative culture. I do translations of works and work with people to help and to explain things and to help to share feelings and emotion. I am a cultural mediator and an interpreter.
Okay, thank you. For those who just joined our meeting, I want to tell you that hello to everyone, and we actually recording this meeting already. And
Okay.
now we do in small introductions. Caroline, could you introduce yourself to us? Caroline?
Yeah, I just also have to completely change the basis of clarity to see. I understood that you're going to edit for a video that will show people how to do an empathy circle, Edwin.
We're not going to be editing it. We'll just be posting it directly. We started recording. We're going to give an introduction to, everyone introduces themselves. We give an introduction to the empathy circle, and then we'll do empathy circles and then have some feedback at the end.
Okay, I thought you had to edit it to like 5 minutes for the XR. Is that not the same thing?
No, we're just going to post it to social media. It'll be put up on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, so like the whole 2 hours will be fully accessible by anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, I have to reconsider because, you know, the actions that I do. Okay, I didn't understand that just our whole conversation for 2 hours is going to be broadcast.
Yeah, you can just watch what you say and just don't say anything that that you feel is controversial or kind of a sensitive topic. So you have to self moderate there.
Jeanette asking for. Jeanette?
Yeah, sorry. I know I'm taking up a lot of space, but I'm also really starting to feel a bit concerned about. I'm really hearing, that there's quite a few people in the group that would love to share and have empathy, and this is an opportunity within XR, and it's actually quite a rare one in a way, and to have that recorded, so that space is not safe. So are we really going to be allowed to open up in a way? I hear it's your need, or whose need is, we're meeting your need, Edwin, I guess, Carolina, for contributing to the wider process. Is that what you'd like to do by sharing this online? When people go.
Yeah, it's for educational purposes. I think one way we can do that is we'll have 4 breakout rooms, and we can record one of them, and everyone that does not want it recorded can be in one of the breakout rooms that's not recorded. So we'll have one that's recorded, and it looks like 3 that are not recorded. So how does that sound? So you just have to let me know if you're okay with it being recorded, and we'll do that. That will be the group with me.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
as we go around, you can also, in your introduction, say recording or not recording. So
yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Just my position is escalated somewhat, so I just had to really think on my feet then. Okay. I'm going to use Tara as my name here. Okay, everyone.
Okay, Tara.
Name. Thank you. Yeah, I'm in UK, London-based, and have attended a few empathy circles, and really find the skills that you develop from active listening and reflecting, and obviously talking when the group is very focused to hear, is really, really useful. And I just had a really shift of my position. So I really want to bring this to the group that I attend. I'm not completely clear yet as to when I'm going to be recording for that short 5-minute video, because that's what I'm most interested in being able to share that. So if you wouldn't mind to just tell me when that's going to be recorded, that's really what my main interest is in. And good to see one.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Lou, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Lou Zweier. I'm from Northern California in the USA. I'm a filmmaker and an educator, conflict resolution and nonviolence. And I've been part of the Empathy Tent team for about a year. And I'm doing public listening projects here in my local community. And I'm really happy to be here. And I also wanted to say that the woman that left, if anyone has a way of contacting her, it'd be great to get her back, because she now has an option of being in a group that's not recorded. So I don't know if anyone knows how to reach her.
I'm here as Misty.
Oh, hi. Okay, great.
Thanks, Lou.
Okay, thank you. Mateusz, would you introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Mateusz. I'm from Poland, but currently living in Iceland. I've been traveling around the world the last 2 years, and now I feel it's time to act, because I feel a little bit overwhelmed by the news we are constantly getting, and yeah, I feel fear about future, and also I want to, like, for me, it's our generations have this feeling that should we have kids or not, and yeah, I want to do something about the future. So I'm just beginner here. Yeah, I would like to hear what you have to say, what you want to say, and learn about this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Record or not record?
Well, I'm okay with recording, but I'm really interested about what people say when they are not recorded. So I'd like to be in the group which is not recorded.
Okay, thank you. Zofia?
Hi, I'm Zofia from Warsaw, and I'm part of XR. I've just joined the group like 2 months ago. But I heard about XR already when the whole thing started in UK and the whole big events there, and I was so happy that there are people that act and that have tools to do things. And I am a lecturer at the Theatre Academy, and I'm researching in arts and in theater. So this is my field, and I've always been involved in some theatrical actions as well, like politically and socially. So, but in the same time, I'm kind of shy and in this context, like not theatrical. It's a very real thing, real situation here of sharing, and I kind of shy, but I guess this is the right tool to be yourself, I guess.
Record or not record?
I prefer not to be recorded,
Okay.
if it's okay. Thanks.
Okay, Suzanne, unmute yourself, please.
There I am.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Susan Campbell from Northern California, and I'm part of the Empathy Circle team. And I've been to one other webinar where we talked about Extinction Rebellion. So I'm pretty new to this conversation, but very committed to continuing to support that work.
Thank you. Sinead?
I just need to know for recording or not recording.
Oh, either way.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sinead, please.
Oh, hey, so I'm Dr. Sinead Sheehan. I'm my PhD's in psychology, and I'm the coordinator for the National XOR Regenerative Culture Circle in Ireland. All that sounds like I'm trying to big myself up. I don't mean to. I think I'm just like, who am I? I don't know. I'm a single mom of 2 kids as well, and I'm not employed, so I don't mean to be like that. Yeah, I do have quite a lot of experience, I suppose, with empathy, giving empathy. I guess I practice empathy, but I don't really quite know how to get to share it as much as I'd like to within the Irish XOR. I'd like to see regenerative culture a bit more of that, I suppose. I still haven't held my first empathy circle, but I'm trying. I don't have a sense of a lot of people valuing that. So let's see where we get to. I certainly value empathy, so I really appreciate you guys creating this space.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Oh, I just want to check on the recording. No, okay. Be sure to say at the end if you want to record or not, so we can get you in the right room.
Okay. So it's okay to record. Okay. Yes, on record. My name is Bill. I'm a retired special education teacher here in Northern California. I've been working for the Empathy Tent for about, a little over a year now, going to all sorts of things, farmers markets, political rallies, schools, trying to teach circles. And what I would like to just get across briefly is that, in the discussion about, the groups and things like that and how we position ourselves is one thing. But what I would like to emphasize is that this is experiential. I believe that we are uncovering a great human need here, and we're addressing it through, so it's not the content that's important, it's the experience. I go on these, every week or so, and I'm committed to the movement, but more than that, I consider this sort of like an exercise for my soul, that, doing it every day, something like that, just keeps me in trim, and things like that. If this were to spread, I think it would really change our world. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Rosie, would you introduce yourself? Unmute yourself.
Hi there. I'm a yes to record, Rosie. My home group is in the UK, XR Norwich. I had my climate crisis awakening on the 20th of July, so I'm fresh into the movement. Have been on that very steep and painful learning curve in recent days, and as I trained as a transpersonal psychotherapist and have been holding space and using circle space a lot to aid my own healing and recovery over the last 5 years, it feels like the right home to me to come and get involved in this movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Veronica, would you introduce yourself? You muted yourself right now. Okay.
It's my first time in Empathy Circle. I'm from Poland, from Gdańsk.
And you are a member of XR.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you accept recording?
No.
Okay. Severinus Sally, would you unmute yourself and introduce to us?
My name is Séverine.
Séverine,
my
sorry.
actual name for this empathy circle can be Sev. It's easier.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm with my friend Valérie.
Hi.
Hi.
We are from Switzerland. And so I came in XR in March, end of March. And I'm a child psychiatrist. And I have a family with kids. And I'm very worried and sad about the news I hear. I have doubts sometimes, but I'm very involved in XR. Musically in the music group, and that's actually therapeutic for me too, and hopefully for other rebels too. And I was interested in the empathy circle because I think it's something that's missing in the region where I live. There are a very small amount of rebels, so we're trying to build up the movement, but we're at the very beginning. Although we started in November, it took us a long time, and it takes a long time to grow the movement.
Thank you, Veronique.
And I'm Valerie.
Valerie, I'm sorry, Valerie.
No problem. And I'm also from Switzerland, but I'm part of XR from another canton where that is a bit bigger, but I'm very new. I started only 1 month ago, and with the help of Séverine, I get involved slowly. So that's why she proposed to me to participate to this group. I'm a physician in tropical diseases, so I work a lot in Africa, and I see the disaster, especially in the poor countries, and I'm very shocked by that. And I also have a lot of children, a recomposed family with my husband, with 4 children between now 30 and 20 years of age that are really, terribly impacted by the climate problems and are, crying, and I don't know how to support them. And for me, I know it. I was in it for thinking of it for several years, but it's still not completely understood, let's say. It's more when I look at my children that I understand better. But yeah, I'm trying to get used to the idea.
Okay, thank you. Do you accept recording or?
Yeah.
Yes, for me it's okay.
For us, it's okay.
Okay. Marty, would you introduce yourself? You have to unmute yourself.
Hi to all. I'm happy to be here. I'm from Holland. I like the Circle Way, ULab, presensing.org, and Satsang. And I do a lot of this kind of things. For 20 years now, I hold my whole week, only when I sleep, but my whole week is holding space for people, sharing stories, and I listen to maybe 1 million stories of other persons. I like it, and yes, I see the empathy is running away here in Holland. People are running away from themselves, and I'm only myself. So I would like it that I'm recorded, because I lead with my vulnerability. It's a difficult word for me. I'm vulnerable, and I show it, and I lead with it, and I'm very open about it. I know for new people that's difficult to show on YouTube. I understand that, and I think it's wise when you don't want to do it. I had that before. That it's difficult to show everything, but I'm famous about it in Holland. A lot of television I've done, radio. I'm telling everything. I had a lot of child trauma, and I'm healed from it. And my mission is bringing people in the here and now, because I am almost all day. That's my solution, to be in the here and now. That can help everybody. So I don't have problems. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Marty. Now I'm a little bit lost because my screen is changing, but I think next is Misty. Misty, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. It's three or nearly 4 in the morning here in Australia. But I didn't want to miss this call, so I even dreamt that I was already on it, because then I wouldn't have to get up. I had this whole long dream, and I'd already done the call, and then my alarm went off. Anyway, I've been teaching, training and mediation, doing training and mediation in nonviolent communication for a few years. I started in South Africa, then I moved to Australia 2.5 years ago. And so empathy has been very much a part of that. I live in a town of about 12,000 people near Melbourne. And so we've only just formed our town XR group a few days ago. And I'm just coordinating the regenerative culture group, and have offered NBC to the Melbourne group, and just waiting to, there's a 3-day regenerative culture sort of camp coming up, and just waiting to see if they've got space for me to offer that. And I'd like to offer empathy circles at various events. And yeah, thank you for your empathy so far, everyone that offered, and just being heard and understood in my situation felt really good. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Misty. I appreciate your sacrificing yourself at so early hour. And I understand that you don't want to be recorded. Andrea, would you introduce yourself? Andrea, do you hear us?
You're muted too.
Okay. I'm in London. I've been part of XR for almost a year. Part of Regen and social media mostly. And I'm a single parent. I have quite a few health challenges and a master's degree in social policy. I'm really not sure what I'm supposed to be saying, by the way, but anyway, I'll just sort of say a few things about me, so you know. And I was interested in this because there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of empathy in the world, and we need a lot more of it. I trained as a counsellor. I think it's the only thing I really earned any money doing, and worked with dying addicts for a long time. So people with AIDS, etc. So yeah, what else can I tell you? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Andrea. And do you accept recording?
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Massimo.
Hi there. I'm from Italy. I'm doing. I'm working on the group on the regenerative culture. I'm a nonviolent communication trainer, and now I'm going to start with a project that is a journey around Italy to bring some talks about Extinction Rebellion and about the value of Extinction Rebellion, and mainly about non-violent direct action. So that's me.
Thank you. I think that is all of us. Or did I miss somebody? I don't see any protests.
Okay, okay, thanks for that, Carolina. So the next thing I want to do is just give a short 9-minute introduction to how the empathy circle works. And let me share a screen here, have this slideshow that we put together to introduce it. So this is how to take part in the basic empathy circle in 9 minutes or less introduction. Really excited to share this because I see this as a really effective gateway to building empathy skills and a way of being. And this is an empathy circle we did at UC Berkeley, and Lou is facilitating that. He's in our group here. And to begin with, what is an empathy circle? So an empathy circle is a structured dialogue process that supports constructive dialogue in small groups. And the process increases mutual understanding, connection, and trust between the participants by ensuring that each person feels fully heard, seen, and understood to their satisfaction. And the process is based on mutual empathic listening. So a lot of therapists in the group and nonviolent communication people with experience in that. And so you'll be familiar with the practice. And it's also, the empathic listening is also called active listening or deep listening or reflective listening. So just a quick overview of why you might want to participate. And here's a list of some of the basic benefits of the practice. The first thing is it's fairly easy to practice and learn and to host. And so it can be quickly replicated. You can pick it up and just pretty short and get started right away. It's really good for developing active listening skills. In fact, I find that the first, kind of the most effective first step and gateway practice for learning active listening skills. Each participant is seen, heard, and understood to their satisfaction. So the more silent people in the group get equal chance to be heard. And it builds trust. When we're heard and seen and acknowledged, that really builds trust, which is really important for team building. So the practice, I think, is really good for building teams. And it's good, it helps to bridge social, political, and personal divide. So we actually have a group that's been working with the political left and right, trying to bridge that divide, and it can work quite well for that. And also, if you're in a group, it really helps if you're using this empathic listening to head off conflicts before they happen. So if you kind of talk things out, you can head off conflicts before they blow up. And it can help resolve existing conflicts. So if you have a group and people are in conflict, bring it into the empathy circle, and it can really help to unravel and resolve the conflict. And it offers also emotional support and healing. So if you're like a therapist, social worker, all these different healing professions, I'd say active listening is a practice that's, kind of at the core of all those professions. And it's also a foundation for other community and democracy building practices. So I see it as a real foundation for nonviolent action. And as well as regenerative culture and peoples and citizens assemblies. So it's like a first step, piece for those other steps. Then, let's see, I got a message here. So then the how-to. So this is how to, like, the step-by-step how to take part in Empathy Circle. We usually have 2 to 7 participants, but the 4 is the ideal number, and here we have 4 participants. There's 4 basic roles, and that rotate among the participants as the Empathy Circle unfolds. So we've got the speaker who's going to be speaking. We have the active listener who listens to the speaker, and the silent listeners, and they quietly observe and witness. And then there's a facilitator who's organizing and scheduling the circle. I'm just getting some messages. Is there something? I'm not sure if there's a message for me, or you can feel free to break in and say something. Then there's the facilitator. Like I was saying, they are also the timekeeper, and they have some experience with the practice and with the process. And their main task is just to keep everyone within the process, but everyone is responsible for holding the practice and process as well. Let's see, there's so how does this work? Just a quick overview. To begin with, the facilitator welcomes the participants. If you don't know each other, you just share your name, where you're from, something personal, which we just did. The facilitator then reviews the Empathy Circle process to remind everyone how it works, and that's what I'm doing right now, kind of giving a bit of an overview. And you'll be able to use this slideshow too if you want to facilitate empathy circles. And then the facilitator announces the discussion topic, and our topic was why are you interested in XR? And then in our group, we posted some questions, and people really liked the topic of what are your hopes and fears about XR and climate change? So you can talk about that as well. And you can always talk about whatever's on your mind too. Even if we have a topic, you can talk about what's alive for you. And the speaker is going to set the time limits, and we're going to have, I think, 5 minutes, or you can figure it out, the facilitators in the group will decide what time limits. I think usually 5 minutes is good, but if we kind of run short on time, we might do 3. And then the facilitator is going to ask who would like to start to be the first speaker. A participant will volunteer to be the first speaker. And as speaker, you select who will be your active listener. You say, I will select, this is Martin, actually Martin. And then as the speaker, you talk about the topic or what is alive for you. So you're going to speak for a little bit, maybe share an idea or two, and then you want to pause and give the active listener a chance to recap what you're saying and feeling. And if you say too much, it's difficult for them to reflect. And then as an active listener, you're listening to the speaker, trying to understand what they're saying and why it's important to them. And you're giving your full attention as a supportive companion on their inner journey and exploration. And when the speaker pauses, you want to recap your understanding of what they said and how they feel by reflecting the essence of that in your own words. And you can summarize, you can paraphrase, or even say back some of the words that they used. And even though you have a strong impulse to, respond with your own ideas and judgments or advice or sympathy or question, you want to kind of hold off on that and then wait for your turn to speak. And you can speak about whatever at that point. Right now, as a listener, you're just trying to follow the speaker on their journey. And, just do your best. If you aren't able to reflect, to the satisfaction of the speaker, they'll just say it whatever they're saying again until they feel heard. And then we go to the speaker. And as a speaker, you check, did you feel understood by the listener? If you do not feel understood, you can say it again, perhaps in different words. And if you do feel understood, you can continue sharing. And again, you speak for a bit, an idea or two, and then you pause again to give the active listener a chance to recap their understanding. And as an active listener, you again, reflect back your understanding, recap what you're hearing. And then the cycle kind of goes back and forth like that for the time allotted, or until you get a signal from the timekeeper. And here you say the 5-minute came up. And if you get a signal from the timekeeper, then you just kind of finish up in a sentence or two. And after you get a final reflection, you can just end your turn by saying, I feel fully heard, and that just indicates that you're done with your turn. Or if you don't, you can say something else just to indicate that you're done. It doesn't have to be I feel fully heard, but it's a good term to use. And then the roles rotate, and the active listener then becomes the speaker, and this person they select becomes a new active listener. And for equal time, it's good to select someone that hasn't spoken lately, but it is your choice who you want to speak to. And the other participants become silent listeners, and the process continues, just for the time allotted. And I think we're going to have about 50 minutes for this. So that is the basic, and you can get more information at empathyscircle.com for how to take part, kind of more in-depth material. So that's a quick introduction. I have created the breakout rooms. So we're going to go into those. There's going to be 4 breakout rooms. I'm going to lead one. Carolina, yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I want to ask if anybody can a little bit prolong our meeting, because we lost some time on the beginning because of making decision about recording. So if it's a problem for anybody, if we a little bit prolong our meeting, because I think it's good to give more rounds to everybody.
Yeah, I would say instead of voting, we end like 10 minutes before, and then we'll do sort of a debrief. The people that want to debrief, they can go first, and then if they need to leave, they can go like that.
Okay.
So
okay.
For ease, usually we don't have as much time. Like we've gone for quite a bit, kind of setting everything up, and this is our first larger group like this, so we're sort of learning. I think we'll get a bit more. The process a bit more refined, so we are more efficient. I know more now about the recording issues, right? So we'll be on top of that. So I'm going to set us into the breakout room, and then 10 minutes before so we'll have 1 hour, and then 10 minutes before the top of the hour, we'll come back into this room and kind of do a short debrief and then close. So here we go. And so you're going to be taken into a room. You can click on the little button if you want to join the room, and you'll be automatically moved in there. Okay, we were the ones that were willing to be recorded. So I'll be the timekeeper, and we'll have 5-minute turns. Let me get the stopwatch up here. Just
I have something important to say, because actually I did a mistake. I don't know if you got my message. I mistook the schedule. We were ready for the call at 10 o'clock this morning.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
So we had to we had to do it at 7 in the evening, which is actually not going to be possible very long for us, unfortunately, because we have organized a dinner and we can't. We can leave for a while, but not for the 2 hours, unfortunately.
Okay. How long can you go for?
We will need to leave in a little while, and hopefully we can come back after a while.
Okay. We have about an hour, so we can just get started, and you can leave when you feel ready. So, and everybody here was willing to be recorded, so so we can get started and jump right in. We have 5 minutes turn. If somebody would like to start, then maybe speak to me, just and then I'll reflect back just to model it. I think everybody's pretty experienced here, so but. So the topic was, why are you interested in XR or whatever is alive for you? Perhaps.
Hi, it's Rosie. I can go first.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, there is no other place now for me to be, now that I know what I know, having read the handbook that this is not a drill and watched the video. I'm pulling back from all other service commitments where I host other circles and have other things going on outside in my outside life. And I'm a mother of one child, and I feel thankful that this has not completely overtaken me, but I'm really aware that knowing what I know now and having opened myself as an empath to all of this devastating news and really understanding the direct impact it will have on me, I'm aware how close. Thankfully, I've never had desperately bad mental health, but I'm aware that I could very easily become completely obsessed, let my other responsibilities go. Psychosis might not be far away, because I know that what it feels like for me when that fear overtakes me, it's like I can have flashes of horror scenes, the playground scene from the Terminator movies, where there's a swing left swinging, and really devastating flashes of my life with nothing in it.
Can I reflect that back? So
sure.
What I'm hearing there is that with what you know now about climate change, that you started putting aside all your other sort of projects, obligations, and you're just focusing on this. But you're also, I think I'm hearing some concern that you could kind of get very overtly focused on this, and you have concerns about that. It could lead to sort of almost like psychosis, or kind of get you into negative feelings in space, and that you have visions of, like in the Terminator, in the playground scene, where it's just like there's this real devastation and dark and space.
That's right.
Is there more?
I would like to be able to contribute to building the structure and the framework for all of us to be able to move through those times when the fear comes over and the depression. And the vision I have for what opportunity we've got for those of us that can feel so deeply is to be the creators of a new wabi-sabi world, where we are the gold thread that mends the broken pieces together. And that is what I want to contribute going forward, because I need it for myself, and I want to contribute it to others.
Yeah, so you could easily get into fear and anxiety, and you want to be one of the people that contributes to addressing that, to finding a new way forward, the Wabi, I don't know what that word means, but the Wabi something. And so you're looking really forward to how you can move forward and create that new world and contribute to that.
Thank you. Yes, I feel deeply heard.
Right. So I wasn't sure the names we have of the two of you. Since you're needing to go, I wanted to speak to one of you. Which
I'm Séverine.
Oh, Séverine. Oh, I'll speak to you then.
Well, Sev.
Sev. Okay, I'll speak to you, Sev. Yeah, it's this is like one of the larger groups that we've done online. I didn't realize how much there was to manage. So I feel a little anxious about all that, all the organizational part of it, and keeping track of a lot of things. So feeling a little stressed about all that. You just want to reflect that back.
Yeah, I can understand. I would really feel very stressed about that.
Mm-hmm. So you just want to say, oh, I'm hearing you feel stressed, very stressed. Yeah. If you just want to reflect that back.
Yeah, I understood you feel anxious about the organization of the whole thing because we're many people.
Yeah, but I'm very excited and happy that so many people are interested, so I feel very happy that there's so many people interested in this. I feel, some real excitement about that.
But you're also happy that so many people are interested in empathy circles.
Yeah, I'm very touched by Rosie that, just her sharing of her feelings about that. I mean, I just feel kind of very sad, kind of deeply moved by it. So just her openness and honesty.
Yeah, and you're feeling moved by what Rosie said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you. So now it's your turn to select someone to speak to.
Well, I'm feeling moved too.
Mm-hmm. So first step is select who you'd like to speak to.
I have to choose someone?
To speak to? Mm-hmm.
I could speak to Susan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm a person who cries easily. So I'm just gonna cry. I'm actually interested in Extinction Rebellion because I've always been interested in living in a better way as a human being, more in communion with the nature. And I've always looked for something that we're building now. And in a way, I'm really happy that all this change is coming. But on the other hand, it's just so sad that it's too late. So you never know. Maybe it's not too late, but I have a lot of doubts about that. And that's what, it doesn't make me feel depressed, but it makes me feel really, really terribly sad. And sometimes angry.
Get that much, Sev?
Okay.
Just pause and let me see if I heard you there.
Okay, okay.
Well, it sounds like you accept the part of yourself that's emotionally open and cries, and you're just going to cry. And you've been interested in making the world a better place for as long as you can remember, and particularly with humans being in communion with nature. And that's a deep value for you that you work on all the time as you go through life. And you said, well, maybe it's not the end, but all the information is pointing that there might be an end of humans here on the planet. But you also said there's something good about us beginning to come together and really look at this problem together and work on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling heard. Yeah, thank you.
You can continue now.
Oh, you changed the place where you were. I'm sorry.
I know.
I got confused. Yeah, so at the beginning with Extinction Rebellion, I felt not very attracted to the disobedience part of it. But then I fully understood the meaning of it, and now I totally stick to it. I'm a little concerned about the fact that I find that in Switzerland, some people are more rebellious in the way that they not as building up and constructing something with everybody. You know, I love the principle of Extinction Rebellion saying that we are all on the same boat. I mean, even politicians, policemen, everybody's on the same boat, and we just need to work with everybody. I mean, we are a big family in a way, and I find that the spirit in some parts of Switzerland is more like, let's rebel, and lots of people are willing to rebel because there's something wrong, but then there's this big system of the humankind that is somehow lost, and it's like we're against someone, which is not the right way to do it. And I'm not sure all the I don't know how to fight, not to prevent it from leading to something more violent. Lots of people are reading books about civil disobedience with violence, and I'm worried about that sort of risk in Extinction Rebellion.
So let me see if I can reflect that back. For a while, you were kind of resistant to the disobedience part, essentially because your point of view, your philosophy is against each other doesn't work. But we're all in this boat together is what you want to promote. And so how to get the people in Switzerland to be more mindful of the we part of it, the cooperative part, the unifying part of it. That's a real concern of yours.
Yeah, maybe there's one thing I would like to correct. Yeah. May I?
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between being disobedient and being against. I mean, you can be really disobedient with someone, but not be against that person.
Yes.
Like, you know, a child can disobey, but but in the same time understand the parent and disobey for the principle of disobeying because it's his job as being a child. So it's more like disobedience is needed, but in the same time, it's also a need to remain to remember that we all need each other, and nobody's perfect, and it's not like these have done wrong and we're trying to correct things. I mean, we've all done wrong things. I don't know if it's different.
I got that. Yeah, that was helpful because I know you said originally you had resistance to the word disobedience, but then you understood it the way you just shared, which is you can take a stand about something while being for the good of the person, like a child who wants to eat nothing but ice cream. I made that up in my head, but we've all made these mistakes and we have to work together, but still you can stand for something. So it doesn't have to have that we-they energy about it.
Okay. I think it's over. Thank you. I felt heard, really fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, Sev. I'd like to pick Sev's friend, and I forgot your name as my listener. What's your name?
I'm Valerie.
Valerie. Hi, Valerie.
Hi.
I think I'd like to start by saying some of my fears that have come up as I've researched this topic over my lifetime, the human being's relationship to the earth. And one of my fears is about the human tendency to want to be in denial. And in the last, I mean, because I sort of identified with some of the stuff Sev said. I've always been looking at this imbalanced human domination over nature. You know, nobody else said it that way, but that's the imbalance. I've always seen this since a little kid. And, you know, when I was a teenager, understanding that there are contraptions, there are inventions that can control pollution, for example, of industry and cars, but corporate power doesn't let those inventions become mainstream. So the fact that so many citizens are not aware of the potential, you know, ever since, you know, I saw it in the 50s, you know, it was when I began to wake up to this stuff. And people just seem to be in denial. So that's my fear. So I'm going to let you feed that back now.
Yeah, sorry, I will probably not be able to reflect everything you said, so maybe you will have to repeat the last part, yes, because I had to memorize. But I understood that you have been interested since very small to the relationship between humankind and nature, and have observed that humankind tend to take the power on the nature, and this is one of your fears. You have several fears, but this is one of them, that we do not take into account possibilities to improve this relationship, that it does this strategies or technologies are not mainstream. Did I understand?
Yes,
more or less.
Fully heard there on that one. Yeah, so I think I'd like to go a little further with the fears thing, even though I do have hopes and visions about how we can work together. I wrote a book. I studied intentional communities back in the 70s and 80s. I visited a lot of land-based intentional communities that were modeling regenerative culture. I got a research grant. And again, I saw lots of solutions that humanity could possibly be adopting. And then I wrote a book about it. But of course, that doesn't change things. So I'll just say that much and let you.
Okay. So if I understood well, you got a grant to study groups working in communities or doing work in land with simple strategies and technologies that could work, and you wrote a book on that. And you feel frustrated that although this is existing and clear, that you wrote a book on that, it's still not coming out in the real world and not as a mainstream. Is that right?
Yes, yes, very, very, very helpful. Thank you to hear that back. I feel heard there. And so, of course, I've observed too, I'm kind of a social scientist. I've observed that humans seem to need a crisis in order to change. And I've done lots of public speaking on that for years. Why do we need a crisis? Can't we see some of the early warning signs here? And so I feel like, you know, there have been many voices like my own, many. I'm not even a public spokesperson for this, really. But I mean, it's such a passion and so obvious to me. So I'll just say that bit, and then I'm going to get to my hopeful side if I have time.
Okay. So as a social scientist, you have been really thinking what could make people change and make this situation change. And you concluded that a crisis is needed, and that's what you have been saying for several years. And this crisis is now here, or this is what you mean, this crisis is here. Yeah.
Yes, I feel heard there. I personally didn't just conclude that humans seem to need a crisis. It's just sort of obvious to a lot of observers of society. Is it 5 minutes, Ed?
That was 5.
All right.
You can pick up
I'll let
next
you
time.
feed that much back to me. It wasn't just me who sees that we are loath to act except if there's a crisis.
So I think she just wanted a reflection of that last piece, and then she was.
Sorry, you said that you did not conclude that we needed a crisis. It was something obvious and that many people were saying. Is it right?
Yes. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, Valerie, now you select who you want to speak to.
So maybe to you, Edwin, to continue the circle, maybe?
I think Rosie started it, so if you wanted to...
Sorry.
Rosie, that would complete the circle.
I wanted to continue the circle. So Rosie, are you still there? Yeah? Rosie, are you able to...
I'm here, ready to hear
active
you.
Listener? Yeah?
Nice garden.
Okay. Okay, so I will try to speak. So I'm right now in a bit of crisis, a personal crisis. You know, we call it sometimes the middle age crisis, where I realized what I have done in my life up to now and thinking about what I would like to do with the next part of my life. And this corresponded also to this awareness about the climate problem, especially because I did with my family round the Atlantic tour in a sailing boat for 1 year, and I got completely shocked by what I saw, the disaster of the climate, especially in Africa, and these villages of poor people that get under the water and things like that, and the plastic accumulation. I mean, it was so concrete that I could not deny anymore what I knew somewhere, but just to see it was something completely different. And this continued to work in my head, and now I'm really in a crisis of thinking, okay, should I stop my work and only work on the climate problem? But on the other hand, I have a lot of responsibilities at work. I'm starting several very large projects in Africa that are related to decrease mortality in children, which is quite important, but suddenly it looks to me trivial compared to this emergency of the climate.
Mm-hmm. So I hear your, oh, let me just put my other headphone in. I hear at the moment you're at a junction in your life, a crisis of kind of epic proportions, not just the sort of typical middle-age crisis, although you're aware that that's where you are age-wise in life, but on top of that, and almost much more significantly, you have been awoken to the devastation of the planet through your travels, and this new understanding is really bringing to view for you, what do I do next? What counts most next for me as a woman in the middle of my life? How do I spend time? But I'm feeling very much this crisis is almost, no, I would be putting words in your mouth, but I feel that in crisis mode, it's difficult to know how to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
With the awareness that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you reflected well what I said. It's true that I feel a bit confused. I cannot even think very well because I feel a bit overwhelmed, and I feel a lot of pressure from my work, from my boss and the people around me to go for more responsibilities in what I have been doing up to now. And I have a movement in myself completely contrary that I cannot tell anybody at work. It's completely secret. I cannot tell them that suddenly something changed in my mind, and that I'm now going in completely different direction in my head.
Right. So it's almost like what you've experienced, this awakening is almost like an actual event. It's a really significant life event that has turned everything upside down, inside, on the inside. So inner world has completely changed, and it's not yet seen, and you're not yet communicating with those that have been relying on the role that you've been playing, and they're going along as if everything stayed the same and getting ready to promote you and give you more responsibility, but there's something inside you saying, halt, I've got a whole other thing going on here, and not yet having the language or the know-how or the ability to communicate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what, and the consequence of what you describe well is that I feel like, you know, a bit schizophrenic. It's half of me continue to do is as if nothing had changed, and I smile at my work and I do as if normal, and inside I feel something, and I have other priorities, and I don't know yet how to reconnect that. I have to find a practical way to reconnect these two parts of myself, because I cannot neither stop working completely. I need an income, so I cannot stop working. So I have to find a way to combine these two.
Yeah. I really identify that the getting an inner and outer matching up has been a goal in life generally, up to my middle age, and now again it's separated, and I'm hearing that in you, that to move forward, the inner and the outer need to match up again, but there's one foot in the old world, needing to pay the bills, to show up in your role, to continue with what I imagine has been a very clear purpose in your life. There's still a need to show up there, but yet this new emerging part of you that has been awakened doesn't fit in with any of that. So how do you, the question is, how do you go about living your day-to-day life, yet carrying this new thing? I hear it's like how do I operate? It's not clear yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you. I felt well heard. You understood well what I tried to convey here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you again, Rosie, select who you'd like to speak to.
I get another go.
We keep going for the time allotted. We have, about 40 minutes, 35 minutes to...
Okay, great. I do love a double dip in these circles, because I find that what I bring.
Oh, who are you speaking to?
I haven't got a gallery option, so I'm going to go with Dr. Susan.
Okay.
If that's okay. Hi, Susan. Yeah, I find that what I have, when I get an opportunity to share twice, the first head always comes from the mind, and then the second share tends to come from the heart. And so when I'm speaking from the heart, I haven't necessarily prepared what I'm going to say, and I feel my way into it. And I'm learning to pause now.
So do you want to reflect, Susan?
Yeah. So you said you're glad to get a second chance, because a lot of times your first go round comes more from the head, and you now have a chance to drop deeper into your heart, and so you're less rehearsed or not sure what you're going to be saying, but you're happy for that opportunity.
Yeah. And always I get really, what helps me get into my heart as well is to listen to others share. And I identify with a lot of the sharing that's happened in this circle already. So as an empath, as a highly sensitive person, and I recently got diagnosed with autism, which for me is all the same thing. I have always, it's like I've always had a sense of what is not working the way it needs to and what needs to change. And it's like the universe, I use the word God, but I'm not religious. Mm-hmm. But that's an easy way to describe the creative intelligence. It's almost like the universe and the planet is doing for me personally what I can't do for myself. What I long for is to live in community. I long to let go of all of these consumer focused distractions that can just get me so far away from myself. I long to have a tribe, not just a tribe online. I'm very good at creating tribes online and being part of them, but to have, you know, physical contact and eye-to-eye contact with people in the flesh is what I long for. And it feels so clear to me that that is what must happen now, not what should. And it's sort of disheartening because I feel like, did it really need to come to being a disaster in order to make this happen? Is this absolutely necessary? But I have had many personal experiences of breaking down to break through, and I can see and feel all of the patterns from the personal to the global.
So let me see if I got that. You've learned to accept that you're a sensitive empath type of person. And because of that, you have, I've always kind of had a sense for what's not working. And now there's a way that you almost welcome the fact that people are waking up to the need for change, because it's something you and your heart need too. It's the community of people working together, letting go of the consumer values and valuing more relationship and relationship to each other and the earth, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So while there's a dark side to it, you have a vision of how this could all work in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear you?
Yes, thank you. And I guess the piece that is within me, but in 30 seconds or whatnot, it's I'm not going to be able to get to it, but I need these circles to help me hold the darkest part of that in me, that I can't access between washing up and hoovering, which is I somehow have to make peace with the fact that I'm going to die. Like this, finding out about having the crisis awakening is the same for me as I imagine getting a terminal diagnosis. And I have always wanted that in a really weird way. Like I've wanted to be able to be forced to really consider what my priorities are in life and align my values with how I live day to day. But that also means accepting my death and preparing for it.
I'm actually kind of choked up here. So one of the ways you frame this, the dark side for yourself, is you are kind of embracing or considering, I will die. And this is something you value, that knowing that you're going to die brings your priorities into sharper focus. And what do I need to do with my life right now in the time I have left? So while there's a dark side, it certainly is a part of life that you accept and even have always embraced, the fact of death.
Just one short correction there. Thank you for hearing me, but the I guess I've been a death dodger just like everybody else. That's what I'm doing when I go to buy or when I take a drink or you know, whatever it is that I do to distract from my life, myself. Actually, I understand that accepting my death is the ultimate gift of freedom that I've been seeking on the spiritual path, and my heart's desire is to be free, and if I can embrace this fully, it is to embrace my death and become truly free from fear.
So you can feel now your heart's desire to be free, the kind of freedom that comes from accepting your death. But you, like everybody else, have been a death dodger. I love that term. And so now you're opening up to feeling all the feelings that go along with embracing your own mortality and humanity too.
Yeah, thank you.
I hear you.
Well, it's very special to be heard in that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will pick Sev to be my listener. So you mentioned, Sev, so many things in your share in terms of we're all in the same boat and those sorts of things, and beware of againstness. These are such deep values for me. The reason I joined the Empathy Circle movement was to see if I really could make a difference, or see if there is a way to help people who are opposed in terms of values and ideas, help people see their common humanity. That's just been such a commitment my entire life. So I was very moved by what you said and a lot of the other people have said here.
So yeah, if I heard you well, you say you feel about the same way I do with that story of being on the same boat, all of us together, and you have always been wishing that people are more linked and collaborate better with one another and have less conflicts and more solidarity among each other. Is that it?
Yeah. You've heard me there. And as a social scientist, but also this is deeply personal for me, always hearing things and reading things that say, well, what's going to unite humanity? And this is my hope for the planetary extinction, or I mean, not planetary extinction, the human extinction crisis, the wake-up call here. My hope is that this could be the unifying concern or crisis that wakes us up to our common humanity, our common planetary citizenship.
So you also wish that the actual climate crisis and environmental crisis has at least this good side effect of awakening people up and to more humanity in a way.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yes, our common humanity, and really being able to see the person on the street who looks very different. This has always been just something I try to do in my life, and acknowledge them with eye contact and feeling my heart. So that's sort of everyday life. But now we've got people. Let's say we're doing an action in the streets, and we're facing a military person or a police person, and somehow, if I'm part of an action, how do I communicate the love in my heart for this being? And I've done counseling for police. So I already have a lot of empathy for police and their struggles, for example. I'll stop there.
Did I understand you well? I understood that you were finding it sometimes difficult when you're in an action with Extinction Rebellion, and to not that easy to always have that deep human relationship, eye contact, and relating and seeing the human side of the person, the more sensitive, or the child within the person in front. Or is that what you said? You don't find it always easy, although you've worked in that field for a long time.
Well, I haven't actually been part of any XR actions, but I've taken to the streets many times and, done sit-ins and marches and things like that. Anti-war kinds of things here in my country. And in those situations, it hasn't been that hard to look the authorities in the eye and feel common humanity. Frankly, in my environments, I have felt safe. But when I project myself into the current situation and the kind of disruptive actions that are taking place, I have not done that. But when I project myself into it, yes, I do wonder, could I stay in my love and let my fear be in the background?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you project yourself doing a disruptive action or some civil disobedience, and when you think about what's happening now and the future we might have or not have, and the fear you might have then during this action, you might not be able to remain with love towards the person in front of you. Is that what you wanted to say?
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard, Sev.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I think there might be some family emergency here. Ça va? 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, if you have 5 minutes, you can speak to whoever you like. You select.
Can I speak to Rosie again? I mean, she spoke shortly before. Are you available? Or did you think you had more time?
Are you there, Rosie? You're muted if you're... might not be there.
Maybe she went for a pee. Oops.
Oh, the connection got dropped. I think she was on a cell phone, so maybe he was having some trouble.
Otherwise, I can also speak to you, Edwin.
Okay, listening.
So yeah, I picked Rosie because I also wanted to say things about what she had said. So it's a pity she's not here anymore. But if it's recorded, maybe she can hear it later.
Mm-hmm. So you really wanted to choose her because you wanted to address some of the things she had talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was touched about her speech about empathy and being an empath person. And I was, I've always thought, I work a lot with autism. We have a lot of autism in the family, and so we're all more or less have at least autistic traits. And I have the feeling that it's not only a feeling, it's I'm sure that if there were a lot more autistic people on Earth, the planet would do much better. and humankind would do much better.
So she had talked about autism, and you're just saying that there's autism in your family, and you actually think that if there was more autism in the world, probably we'd be doing better, and the planet would do better.
Yeah, because that sensitivity one has when one is more interested in the person herself and itself, and not the appearance and superficial things and social codes and stuff. When you're more interested in real things that matter, and you're passionate about things, you can usually do less harm and more good. That's my what I'm sure about.
Yeah, so you're sure that if you have that autism where you're really passionate about things, you're not like interested in kind of superficial things, social status, etc. That you're really interested in people, or that sort of focus and that interest would be sort of a positive, and would be foster more well-being, I guess.
But then I also wanted to add something that really concerns me these days, because I would feel, I think, better if I knew better what the outcome was. Of course, we can't know, and there are so many unknown factors, but I have heard a lot, read a lot, and I hear so many different versions that maybe it's on purpose. So it's made that so that we know that that we don't know. So there's a little chance that everything we're doing now can be useful, because sometimes I'm doing too much. Sometimes I'm losing myself, and I'm having a couple problems sometimes because my husband thinks that I'm getting lost and totally, like, he talks about I'm almost psychotic about it because I'm too much into it. And he's worried about me not taking care of family things enough and stuff like that. So, if I believe like Macpherson, for instance, who says, well, we don't even have 10 years. Anyway, whatever we do, we're doomed. Then maybe I'd do things differently, That's something that's important for me.
So there's this aspect that your husband is saying you're sort of being obsessed around this topic and of climate change and the concerns about it, and that I'm not sure if I got it all, but that someone was saying that we're doomed anyway, and that you're not like sure. Are we? If you are doomed anyway, you would take a different approach to life. So I'm not sure if I quite got it. That
the guy's name is Macpherson, but
okay, Macpherson.
He said was exactly right. Yeah. Because less than 10 years is really short. My God. I mean, but then on the other hand, if you have less than 10 years, then you someone who you announce a cancer to. So it's like you have to do a sort of a mourning before it happens. So you're in the process of, mourning about humanity and yourself before your death, but you get ready for it. And on the other hand, you can also appreciate better everything and do really the things that count in the meanwhile. So, but then if what we're doing with XR is really useful, which I tend to believe, because I always think there's a little chance and you can't be sure about things anyway, then I want to do it totally, and I'm hesitating to quit work and stuff like that.
So there's kind of two directions. One is if XR is helpful and useful and is something that would contribute, that you want to just, put yourself into that and, really work on that concentrate on that. But if we just have 10 years, then you would take a different approach. If it's sort of like hopeless, then you just would mourn and kind of deal with the time that's left. So it's kind of like two different paths that you see that And it's like, it sounds like you're not quite sure of which path is accurate or just.
Yeah, exactly. Is it 5 minutes? Or?
Yeah, that was about 5. So I speak to Valerie, if you're still able to. I know that I had realized I had locked the room, and I was a little concerned that if Rosie was trying to get back in, that she might have trouble getting back in. But now it's like with all the management, I'm not quite sure, like even how to get that back. So if you want to reflect that part back, just my anxiety about technical stuff.
So you are worried as the organizer to have missed something technically with Zoom that does not allow Rosie to come back to this particular room, that it's locked and that she cannot participate again.
Yeah, so that was some concern I had.
Yeah.
So another topic is that with XR, I have concerns about any sort of a social movement like this, that it might be taken over by authoritarian sort of groups. And I think that was sort of addressed, groups that are, very authoritarian. And so I have some concerns about that. The basic principles of XR, to tell the truth, let's address climate change and have it go in a democratic citizens assembly, direction, which I think empathy is the foundation of that. I support that. I think those basic values, principles are good, but I'm concerned about sort of groups that are more authoritarian sort of taking over.
So you are explaining that you are worried that the basic 3 principles of XR, of making awareness, and the second one, these 3 principles that they are not respected, and that some group could tend to go to more authoritarianism, like Severin mentioned for Switzerland. And you think that these 3 principles are really linked closely to empathy, and that's why you want to put emphasis on empathy.
Yeah. So if we have empathy and everyone needs to learn how to do empathic dialogue and is open to take part, it sort of transforms any authoritarianism, because they come into the circle, they get heard, but they have to listen to others. And so it really puts this dialogue at the core, which I think is, creates a safety for everyone and can kind of short circuit, transform any kind of authoritarianism. So I think that's why what we're doing is very important, because it's kind of bringing in that core empathic, and standing for it, holding it, saying, this is, we require this, basically.
Yeah, so for you, it's really core and crucial that these empathic groups can disseminate, because it will be the safety net so that any authoritarianism can be transformed back to something positive and empathic between people. So for you, it's very important to work hard on this circle, on this part.
Yeah, if a group wants to take over and they want to do something that's, confrontation, like Susan is talking about, we hate the police, we hate the conservatives, we hate, they're bad people. It's like that. I don't support that, because for me, it's like, we need the conservatives, we need the police, we need them in a dialogue though, right? We need to listen to them. So that's why I just see what we're doing here is so important, that we are able to dialogue, to listen to the police, listen to the politically left and the politically right, and that we need, to strongly advocate for this dialogue.
So for you, this empathic dialogue is very important, because this is what will make people who tend to be authoritarian and be against or hate, to bring them back to listen to people. And if you listen, you have to listen to people. You cannot hate anymore, because this person is again, and a real person that you cannot hate anymore. Is it what you want?
That's exactly it. And that's why, and so I feel pretty strongly about that. No, we need to be assertive in this. We can't say, oh, nobody's listening, so I'm going to go home. It's like, you're going to have to listen. That we're assertive in this, that we just don't let, that authoritarianism sort of take over, but that we're assertive in, having, advocating for these dialogues.
So you want to push and be assertive on these dialogues so that everybody is included, including the policeman, everybody, so that we keep the link.
Yeah, exactly, that connection.
My interpretation. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel very heard, very fully heard. Thank you.
We'll just put a bit of light on.
Okay.
Severin, if you want to go for the family.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is now. I think I need to go because my husband and my eldest son just came back from 4 days away in the mountains.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I had just had barely the time to say hi. So
yeah. So thank you for taking part, and we'll see you next time. So
yeah, hopefully. Yeah,
hopefully.
It was a pleasure, really. And yeah, bye to everyone.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And I join you in 5 minutes.
Okay. When you
yeah.
Okay.
So it's your turn. So
so what I wanted to say is, yeah, it's a pity that Rosie is not there anymore.
who are you speaking to?
Oh, sorry. To Susan.
Okay, Valerie.
So yes, Susan, I was feeling what Rosie said before, that the first part was a bit more with her head and intellectual, and then the emotion came for the second turn. And when she said that, I had a strong emotion that came in to me, and which is not very, it's difficult for me to connect with my emotion because I'm a very intellectual person. So I take the opportunity to try to connect this emotion. Maybe you can summarize that.
You've seen yourself as an intellectual person, and what Rosie said about the two turns are kind of like the two layers of yourself. You now are hoping in this opportunity to bring more of your emotional side out.
And the emotion I felt is something like how not to lose hope, because in fact I realized that I have a lot of hope in Africa, in African people. You know, when I'm working there with them, I speak their language, I'm really with them. And what makes me feel well is that they have still this connection with nature that we have somehow lost a bit in our culture, or at least they have kept more linked with nature, and they touch themselves more than we do. And something very important that I had always hoped that they could bring to our culture. Maybe you can.
That much, yeah. So you feel very connected to the African cultures that you work with, and you even speak their language. And one of the hopeful things that's coming up for you right now is how we can learn from those cultures. They do have a vibrancy in the sense that they're more connected to nature. They are more connected to their own bodies, illustrated by how they touch themselves more. And so that brings you some hope.
Yeah, but I do not want to lose this hope due to the fact that I also know that with the climate change, they might be the culture that will suffer first, and that maybe in Switzerland we are a rich country, we have water, we are a bit more protected than they are. And suddenly I tend to lose a bit hope that if the African people die before or disappear before we do, we lose completely what we could learn from them of this connection with nature. You know, I realized when I went last time that they are doing permaculture, you know, naturally. Yeah. We reinvented that, but they do it already. So they know it all. So yeah, You understand what I mean?
Yeah, let me see if I can reflect that back to you. While seeing their culture has you feeling hope, also just the statistics about climate change have you feeling some possible like despair that these cultures, the African nations, may be the first to feel the real serious effects of climate change, whereas in Switzerland you're somewhat protected. And I can feel that, you know, that passion in you, that their ability to instinctively know the laws of nature and live in harmony with nature. And they didn't have to study permaculture. They instinctively know things like that. So it saddens you to think that they might be lost, that wisdom and that culture might be lost.
Yeah, thank you for listening and conveying my big worry.
And thank you for taking part. We're going to need to close this, but it's definitely feel very touched, moved by this. Yes.
I have tears. I just want to acknowledge you, Valerie. Thank you for moving me to that degree. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the main.
Okay, we're closing the rooms. Then we'll go back to the larger group. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thanks. It was a real pleasure. Well, let's see.
Hey.
Okay, else.